Hello everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the weekly report. We should listen to the Iraqi Parliament. This month marks the 15th anniversary of the U.S. war on Iraq. The shock and awe attack was launched based on stovepiped intelligence fed from the CIA and Pentagon through an uncritical and compliant U.S. mainstream media. The U.S. media was a willing accomplice to this crime of aggression committed by the George W. Bush administration. Despite the lies we were constantly bombarded with, Iraq never presented a threat to the United States. Iraq never had the weapons of mass destruction that the neocons used to frighten Americans into supporting the war. How many of them knew all along that there were no WMDs? We'll never know. Attacking Iraq and overthrowing its leader was long a plan in the neocon playbook, and they used the 9/11 attack on the U.S. as an excuse to pull the plan off the shelf and put it into action. The U.S. regime change war on Iraq has directly resulted in the death of at least 250,000 civilians, and indirectly perhaps 1 million Iraqis have been killed. The Iraqi infrastructure was destroyed and the country was set back many decades in development. Far from the democratization we were promised, Iraq has been turned into a hell on earth. Due to the U.S. use of depleted uranium and other chemical weapons like white phosphorus, Iraq will continue to suffer from the birth defects and other related illnesses for generations. How did we get there? War propaganda was essential in paving the way for the Iraq War. Americans are generally skeptical about launching new wars, so it takes a steady media bombardment about the alleged depravities of any targeted regime before public opinion begins to shift in favor of war. Because the neocons who helped launch the war have never had to face the consequences of their actions, they continue to promote war with impunity. Just this past week, Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, was pushing for a U.S. attack on North Korea in which millions may be killed. He said this weekend, all the damage that would come from a war would be worth it in terms of long-term stability and national security. That's just what they said before the U.S. attacked Iraq. And how did that turn out? I find it disgusting that the media continues to give airtime almost exclusively to those who promote more U.S. disasters like Iraq. The Iraqi Parliament did something extraordinary last week. A majority of elected Iraqi representatives voted to demand that their prime minister draw up a timetable for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from the country. President Obama had withdrawn U.S. troops from Iraq in 2011 after a status of forces agreement could not be reached with the Iraqi government. But he returned the U.S. military to Iraq under the auspices of fighting ISIS. We had no business going into Iraq in the first place, and we have no business remaining in Iraq. Al-Qaeda and ISIS emerged in Iraq because our attack and occupation of the country 15 years ago created fertile fields for extremism. Nothing will be achieved if we remain. Let's listen to the Iraqis and just come home. Thanks for listening.